Jake Morrison stood at the massive viewing window of Haven 1 space station, watching Earth turn slowly below. The blue marble looked peaceful from up here, but Jake knew that was about to change forever. His uniform felt tight around his shoulders as he checked his watch. The alien fleet would arrive any minute now. Behind him, the communication room buzzed with nervous energy. Technicians ran between stations, checking equipment and sending reports back to Earth. Everyone knew this was the most important day in human history. First contact with an alien civilization. Jake had trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could have prepared him for what was coming. The first warning came from the outer sensor array. Lieutenant Danny Cruz burst into the command center, his face pale. "Sir, we have contact. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system." Jake moved to the main display screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of massive ships appeared on the sensors, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. The smallest vessel was 3 times the size of Haven 1. The largest looked like a floating mountain. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Jake ordered. His voice stayed calm despite the fear growing in his chest. "And patch me through to President Carter immediately." Within minutes, President Lisa Carter's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, as if she had not slept in days. "Commander Morrison, what's our situation up there?" "It's big, Madam President. Really big. We count over 300 ships. And they're still coming. These aren't exploration vessels, this is a war fleet." The President nodded grimly. "We're tracking them from down here too. Our best estimates put their total firepower at something we can't even measure." "Are they responding to our communication attempts?" Before Jake could answer, every screen on Haven 1 went dark. Then a new image appeared. It showed a tall reptilian creature with silver scales and glowing red eyes. The alien wore what looked like military armor, decorated with symbols that spoke of rank and authority. "I am Admiral Vexithara of the Zephyrian Empire." The creature spoke in perfect English, though its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I address the primitive species that calls this system home." Jake felt his hands clench into fists. The aliens' tone made it clear they were not here for peaceful contact. "Your species has been selected for incorporation into the Empire. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact." The Admiral paused, letting the words sink in. "You have 72 hours to surrender completely and unconditionally. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your governments will be dissolved. Your people will serve the Empire as we see fit." The alien leaned forward, its red eyes seeming to stare directly at Jake through the screen. "Do not mistake this for weakness or mercy. We have conquered over 2,000 worlds. We have wiped out species that thought themselves mighty. We have turned entire star systems into dust when they dared to resist us." Admiral Vexithara gestured to something off-screen. The image changed to show a planet being torn apart by massive energy beams. Cities burned, continents cracked. Within minutes, what had once been a living world became nothing but floating debris. This was the fate of the Andromedans when they chose defiance over wisdom. Their technology was more advanced than yours. Their fleets were larger than yours. Their will to fight was stronger than yours. Yet they are dust, and we remain. The image returned to the Admiral's face. 72 hours. Submit or join the Andromedans in extinction. There will be no third option." The screen went dark. Jake stared at the empty display for a long moment. Around him, the command center had gone completely silent. Everyone understood what they had just witnessed. Humanity faced a choice between slavery and death. President Carter's voice broke the silence. "Commander, I need you back on Earth immediately. We're calling an emergency session of the Global Defense Council." "Yes, ma'am, I'll take the next shuttle down." 3 hours later, Jake sat in the most secure room on Earth, deep beneath the Pentagon. Around the massive table sat the most powerful people in the world. President Carter led the meeting, but Jake could see the fear in everyone's eyes. General Frank Hudson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke first. "The math is simple. They have over 50,000 ships according to our latest count. We have exactly 212 combat vessels, most of which are patrol boats and frigates. This isn't a fight. This is suicide. Defense Secretary Kate Phillips shook her head. We can't just give up. If we surrender, we become slaves. Our children, our grandchildren, everyone we've ever cared about becomes property of this empire. Better slaves than dead, General Hudson replied harshly. At least if we surrender, some of us survive. President Carter raised her hand for silence. What about our defensive capabilities? Our orbital platforms? The bunker cities? Admiral Steve Parker, head of Space Command, pulled up a holographic display. Our orbital defenses can handle maybe 50 of their ships. Maybe. The bunker cities can protect our population for a while, but if they start cracking continents like they showed us, nowhere will be safe. Jake noticed one person who had not spoken yet. Dr. Alex Turner sat at the far end of the table, staring at a tablet in his hands. Dr. Turner, you've been quiet. Do you have something to add? Dr. Turner looked up slowly. His eyes held something Jake had not expected to see. Hope. Actually, I do. We've been working on something. Project Phoenix. It's experimental, dangerous, and completely untested on this scale. But it might give us a chance. President Carter leaned forward. What kind of chance? The kind that could turn Earth itself into a weapon. The room fell silent again. Outside, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware that in 72 hours, everything would change forever. Captain Ryan Blake gripped the controls of his fighter as he led 12 ships through the asteroid belt. Each vessel carried humanity's newest weapon, quantum torpedoes that Dr. Turner's team had finished just hours before. Nobody knew if they would work against alien shields, but Blake was about to find out. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle 1, Blake spoke into his helmet radio. Remember, we hit fast and we hit hard. Target their sensor arrays first, then their engines. Make every shot count because we won't get a second chance. His wingman, Lieutenant Amy Ross, checked her weapons display. Torpedoes armed and ready, Captain. These alien ships look big, but let's see how tough they really are. The Zephyrian scout fleet hung in space like sleeping giants. 15 massive cruisers surrounded by smaller escort ships, all of them painted in the dark metal colors of the Empire. Their hulls gleamed with the blue glow of energy shields that could stop nuclear weapons. Blake had volunteered for this mission knowing it was probably suicide. 48 hours remained on the ultimatum, and humanity's answer would not come through words. Earth would speak with fire and steel. Acquiring targets now, Blake announced as his fighter's computer locked onto the nearest cruiser. All ships execute attack pattern Delta. Go, go, go. 12 human fighters burst from the asteroid field like angry hornets. The Zephyrian ships, caught completely off guard, scrambled to respond. Alarm signals filled the alien communication channels as energy shields flared to life. Blake fired his first quantum torpedo at point-blank range. The weapon struck the cruiser's shields and something impossible happened. Instead of bouncing off harmlessly, the torpedo passed through the barrier like it did not exist. The explosion tore a massive hole in the alien ship's hull. Direct hit, Lieutenant Ross shouted over the radio. Their shields can't stop our new weapons. The human fighters swarmed around the Zephyrian fleet like wolves attacking a herd of buffalo. Quantum torpedoes slammed into alien hulls, sending debris spinning through space. 3 cruisers exploded in brilliant flashes of light before the enemy could mount an effective defense. Admiral Vexa Thara watched the battle from her command ship at the edge of the solar system. Her scaled hands gripped the armrests of her command chair as reports flooded in from the scout fleet. Impossible, she hissed through sharp teeth. No primitive species has ever penetrated our shields. How are they doing this? Her tactical officer, a nervous-looking alien with 4 arms, studied the sensor readings. Admiral, their weapons appear to operate on quantum principles we do not understand. Our shields are designed to stop energy and matter, but these weapons somehow bypass both. Increase power to the scout fleet's shields. Deploy all escort fighters. Admiral, we have already lost 3 cruisers. The human ships are too fast and maneuverable. Our heavy weapons cannot track them effectively. Vexathera's red eyes blazed with fury. In 1,000 battles across the galaxy, no enemy had ever drawn first blood against the Empire. These humans would pay dearly for their arrogance. Blake pulled his fighter into a sharp turn as alien plasma bolts streaked past his cockpit. The enemy was starting to fight back, and their return fire could vaporize his small ship in seconds. But the damage was done. 3 enemy cruisers drifted as burning wrecks, and 2 more showed heavy damage. Eagle Squadron, time to go, Blake ordered. Mission accomplished. Return to base. The human fighters vanished back into the asteroid field, leaving the Zephyrian scout fleet licking its wounds. Blake felt a grim satisfaction as he guided his ship toward Earth. Humanity had just announced to the galaxy that they would not go quietly into slavery. 6 hours later, Admiral Vexathera stood on the bridge of her flagship as it moved toward Earth. Her orders from the Empire were clear. The humans had dared to attack first, which meant they had forfeited any chance of survival. Earth would burn. Begin orbital bombardment, she commanded. Target their major population centers, show them the price of defiance. Massive energy beams lanced down from space, striking cities across Earth's surface. New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing all felt the wrath of the Empire. But instead of the complete destruction Vexathera expected, something strange happened. The human cities did not die. As the first energy beam struck, entire populations vanished underground through hidden tunnel systems. The surface buildings collapsed, but massive explosions revealed underground bunker complexes that stretched for miles beneath every major city. "What is this?" Vexathera demanded, as her sensors showed the underground networks. "How long have they been preparing for this?" Her intelligence officer brought up a holographic display of Earth. "Admiral, it appears the humans have been building these bunker cities for decades. Every major population center has underground facilities capable of housing millions of people. But that was not the only surprise waiting for the Empire. As Zephyrian bombardment ships moved closer to Earth, what looked like simple mining stations in orbit suddenly revealed their true nature. Hidden weapons emerged from fake cargo containers. Energy shields snapped to life around disguised battle stations. Admiral Steve Parker coordinated Earth's defense from the hidden command center beneath Colorado Springs. "All orbital platforms, you are cleared to engage. Let's show these aliens that humans know how to fight dirty." The space around Earth erupted in battle as hidden defense platforms opened fire on the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens found themselves caught between the orbital defenses above and the quantum-armed fighters rising from Earth's surface. On the ground, Colonel Amy Ross led Marines through the tunnels connecting the bunker cities. Her job was to coordinate the defense of the underground complexes while civilian engineer Kate Phillips worked frantically to complete the Phoenix array. "Ma'am, we have Zephyrian dropships landing in Sector 7, a sergeant reported. "They're trying to breach the surface entrances." "Let them come," Colonel Ross replied grimly. "We'll teach them that every human city is a fortress and every human is a soldier when their families are threatened." Above ground, the battle for Earth had begun in earnest. But below the surface, in laboratories hidden deep beneath the planet's crust, Dr. Turner made final preparations for humanity's ultimate weapon. The Phoenix array was almost ready, and when it activated, the entire solar system would feel its power. Admiral Vexathera had expected quick submission from a primitive species. Instead, she found herself fighting an enemy that had been preparing for this war since the day they first looked up at the stars and wondered what might be waiting in the darkness. 2 weeks into the siege, Captain Ryan Blake floated in his damaged fighter cockpit, watching Earth burn through the cracked viewport. The planet looked like a dying ember, with fires spreading across every continent. But Blake knew better. Those fires were not cities burning. They were the exhaust flames from millions of defensive weapons as humanity fought back from underground. Blake's fighter squadron had been reduced to 6 ships. Every day brought new battles in the asteroid belt, where human forces used the floating rocks as cover against the massive Zephyrian fleet. His latest mission had cost him 3 good pilots, but they had destroyed 2 enemy destroyers and damaged a battleship. "Eagle 1, this is Control," came the voice of Admiral Steve Parker through the static-filled radio. We need you back at base. The aliens are massing for another ground assault. Blake fired his thrusters and headed toward the hidden asteroid, base that served as humanity's main fighter command. As he flew, he could see the Zephyrian fleet spread across space like a metal plague. 50,000 ships surrounded Earth, but somehow the planet still fought. Deep beneath the ruins of Chicago, Colonel Amy Ross crouched in a tunnel junction, reloading her rifle. The Zephyrian ground forces had been trying to break into the bunker, cities for days, but every entrance had become a killing ground. Human defenders knew every tunnel, every room, every hiding place in their underground cities. "Ma'am, we have movement in tunnel section C7, Sergeant Danny Cruz reported through his helmet radio. "Looks like another squad of those lizard soldiers." "Copy. That sergeant set up crossfire at junction C9. Let them get close, then hit them from 3 directions." Ross had learned that the Zephyrian soldiers were tough and well-armed, but they were not used to fighting in tight spaces. Their weapons were designed for open battlefields, not tunnel warfare. Every corridor became a trap, every room a fortress. The Eye. Alien soldiers moved through the tunnel like they owned it, their energy rifles glowing in the darkness. They wore heavy armor that could stop most human weapons, but Ross had discovered their weakness. The joints in their armor were vulnerable to close-range fire. "Now!" Ross shouted. Human defenders opened fire from 3 directions at once. The confined space amplified the sound of gunfire until it was deafening. Alien soldiers fell as bullets found the gaps in their armor. The survivors tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to run in the narrow tunnel. 5 minutes later, the battle was over. Another Zephyrian squad had learned the hard way that humans were dangerous when cornered. On the surface, the war looked different. Admiral Vexithara commanded her fleet from the bridge of her massive flagship, studying tactical displays that showed the siege progress. What she saw frustrated her beyond measure. "Report," she demanded from her tactical officer. "Admiral, we have successfully destroyed most surface installations on the human world. However, our ground forces continue to face heavy resistance in the underground complexes. We estimate the humans have enough supplies to resist for months, possibly years." Vexithara's claws scraped against her command chair. "This is unacceptable. We have conquered worlds with populations 10 times larger in a matter of days. How can these primitives continue to resist?" "Ma'am, their tunnel systems are far more extensive than our initial scans indicated. Every underground city connects to dozens of others through transport tubes. When we attack one location, defenders can retreat to another and counterattack from a different direction." The Admiral studied the holographic display of Earth's underground networks. It looked like the inside of an anthill, with tunnels and chambers spreading beneath every continent. The humans had spent decades turning their entire planet into a fortress. In the deepest laboratory beneath the former site of Washington, D.C., Dr. Alex Turner worked desperately on the Phoenix array. The quantum fusion reactors were almost ready, but every day brought new problems. The alien bombardment had damaged 3 of the 12 reactor sites, and repairs were nearly impossible while the battle raged overhead. "Doctor, we're getting power fluctuations in Reactor 7, his assistant Kate Phillips reported. "The quantum field is becoming unstable. Increase the containment field strength by 20%, Turner replied, without looking up from his calculations. "And reroute power from the backup systems." Turner knew they were running out of time. The Phoenix array was humanity's last hope, but activating it would change everything. The quantum fusion process would turn Earth's core into a massive reactor, giving humanity unlimited energy, but it would also make the planet uninhabitable for decades. President Lisa Carter had given him authorization to proceed, but Turner wondered if they truly understood what they were about to unleash. The Phoenix array would not just give them power. It would turn every human weapon into something the aliens had never faced before. Above ground, the siege continued. Captain Blake returned from another mission with his fighter squadron reduced to 4 ships. The hangar bay beneath the Rocky Mountains had become a tomb for too many good pilots, but somehow they kept fighting. "Captain, we just received word from Admiral Parker." Lieutenant Amy Ross met him as he climbed out of his cockpit. "The aliens are bringing up their heavy assault ships. They're planning something big." Blake looked at the tactical display showing the Zephyrian fleet movements. The enemy was concentrating their firepower above North America, probably preparing for a massive bombardment that would crack the bunker cities open like eggs. "How long until Dr. Turner's weapon is ready?" Blake asked. "He says maybe 48 hours if nothing else goes wrong." Blake nodded grimly. 48 hours might as well be 48 years if the aliens broke through the bunker defenses. But humanity had survived 2 weeks against impossible odds. Maybe they could survive 2 more days. In space, Admiral Vexithara made her decision. The siege had gone on too long. The Empire was beginning to ask questions about why a single primitive world was taking so much time to conquer. She would end this with one overwhelming assault. "Prepare the planet crackers," she ordered. "We will split their world in half and be done with this embarrassment." Her officers looked nervous. Planet crackers were weapons of last resort, designed to destroy entire worlds when all else failed. Using them on Earth would leave nothing behind but asteroids. "Admiral, the Empire wants this world intact for colonization," her second-in-command warned. "The Empire wants results," Vexithara replied, coldly. "If we cannot have this world, then no one will. Charge the planet crackers, we attack at dawn." Deep beneath the surface, Dr. Turner felt the Phoenix Array coming online. Power readings climbed steadily as quantum reactors across the planet synchronized their output. Soon, very soon, humanity would have its answer to the Empire's ultimatum. Earth had 48 hours left to live or die. The long night was almost over, and dawn would bring either salvation or destruction. President Lisa Carter stood in the deepest bunker on Earth, her hand hovering over the red button that would change everything. Through the reinforced walls, she could feel the vibrations from the alien bombardment above. The Zephyrian planet. Crackers were charging their weapons, and Earth had minutes before complete destruction. "Madam President," Dr. Alex Turner called from his control station. "The Phoenix Array is ready. All 12 reactors are synchronized, but I need to warn you one more time. Once we activate this, there is no going back. Earth will never be the same." Carter looked at the faces around her. Admiral Steve Parker, Colonel Amy Rose, Captain Ryan Blake, and dozens of other military leaders who had fought impossible odds for 2 weeks. They all knew what this moment meant. "Dr. Turner, how long do we have before the aliens fire their planet crackers?" "Our sensors show they will be ready in approximately 4 minutes, ma'am." Carter closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of the billions of people hiding in bunkers across the planet. Children who would never see blue skies again. Families torn apart by war. An entire world about to die unless she pressed this button. "Activate Phoenix Protocol," she ordered. Turner's hands flew across his control panel. Deep beneath every continent, quantum fusion reactors that had been hidden for years suddenly roared to life. The reaction started in North America, then spread to Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and South America. Within seconds, 12 points of incredible energy connected through quantum fields that ran through Earth's core. But something unexpected happened. The quantum reaction did not stop at Earth's core. It spread outward through space itself, creating a network of energy that touched every human military asset in the solar system. Ships, space stations, weapons platforms, and even individual fighters suddenly blazed with power that made stars look dim. Captain Blake felt it first. He was leading his remaining 3 fighters against a Zephyrian cruiser when his ship's instruments went crazy. Power levels climbed beyond anything he had ever seen. His quantum torpedoes, which had been effective but limited, suddenly carried enough energy to crack moons. "What the hell is happening?" Lieutenant Amy Ross asked over the radio, as her fighter surged with new power. "I don't know," Blake replied, "but I like it. All ships engage at will. Let's see what we can do now." Blake fired a single torpedo at the Zephyrian cruiser. The weapon struck with the force of a nuclear bomb, but instead of just damaging the ship, it tore completely through the hull and kept going. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth's surface. In space above Earth, the human defense platforms that had been barely holding their own against the alien fleet suddenly became weapons of incredible destruction. Admiral Parker watched from his command center as orbital station after orbital station opened fire with energy beams that sliced through Zephyrian ships like paper. "Sir, our power readings are off the charts," his weapons officer reported with amazement. "Every human weapon in the solar system just became 100 times more powerful." Admiral Vexithera stared at her tactical display in disbelief. Her massive fleet, which had been winning the siege just minutes before, was suddenly being torn apart by weapons that should not have been able to scratch their hulls. "Report!" she screamed at her tactical officer. "What is happening to our ships?" "Admiral, the humans appear to have activated some kind of quantum field weapon. Their entire solar system is now connected by energy networks we cannot understand. Every human weapon is drawing power from this field." A Zephyrian battleship exploded outside the viewport of Vexithara's flagship. Then another. Human fighters that had been running and hiding were now attacking head-on, their weapons cutting through Imperial shields like they did not exist. "Order all ships to retreat to the edge of the system," Vexithara commanded. "Full power to engines." But her communications officer brought worse news. "Admiral, we cannot retreat. The quantum field has created some kind of space distortion. Our hyperspace drives are not functioning. We are trapped." On Earth's surface, Colonel Amy Ross led her Marines out of the tunnels for the first time in 2 weeks. The alien ground forces, cut off from orbital support and facing humans with supercharged weapons, were retreating in panic. "Ma'am, the lizards are running," Sergeant Danny Cruz reported with a grin. "Our new rifles are punching through their armor like it's made of paper." Ross looked up at the sky where explosions marked the destruction of alien ships. "Looks like Dr. Turner's miracle weapon worked better than anyone expected." In his laboratory, Turner stared at his instruments in wonder. The Phoenix Array had not only given humanity unlimited energy, it had created something entirely new. The quantum field was enhancing human thinking as well as human weapons. His team was solving complex problems in seconds that should have taken months. "Doctor, we're receiving communication requests from all over the galaxy," Kate Phillips announced. "The quantum field is letting us talk instantly across thousands of light years." Turner smiled. "Put them through. Let's see who wants to talk." The first voice that came through spoke in broken English. "This is the resistance movement on Kepler 7. We have been slaves of the Empire for 300 years. Your quantum field reached our world. Our weapons now work against the lizards. We are fighting back." More voices joined the conversation. Dozens of worlds that had been crushed under Zephyrian rule were suddenly able to fight back. The Phoenix Array had not just saved Earth, it had started a galactic revolution. Captain Blake, now flying a fighter that could destroy capital ships with single shots, led the human fleet toward Admiral Vexithera's trapped command ship. The tables had turned, completely. The hunters had become the hunted. "Admiral Vexithera," President Carter's voice came over the alien communication system. "This is President Carter of Earth. I believe we need to talk." On her flagship, surrounded by the burning wreckage of her once mighty fleet, Admiral Vexithera realized that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had demanded submission from a species that did not know how to surrender. Instead of breaking humanity's spirit, they had forged it into something that could break empires. The Phoenix Array hummed with power beneath Earth's surface, feeding energy to weapons across the galaxy. The fire of human defiance had become an inferno that would burn away the darkness of tyranny, and this was only the beginning. Admiral Vexithara watched her empire crumble from the bridge of her dying flagship. Half her fleet floated as burning wreckage around Earth, destroyed by weapons that should not have existed. The other half sat powerless, trapped by the quantum field that prevented any ship from jumping to hyperspace. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 of our remaining ships," her communications officer reported with shame in his voice. "The crews are asking permission to abandon their vessels." Vexithara's red eyes blazed with fury. In 1,000 years of conquest, no Zephyrian had ever surrendered to an enemy. The very concept was foreign to everything the Empire believed about strength and superiority. "Deny all surrender requests," she hissed. "We are Zephyrians. We do not bow to primitives." But even as she spoke, explosions rocked her flagship. Human fighters swarmed around the massive vessel like angry wasps, their quantum-powered weapons tearing through armor that had been designed to withstand the firepower of entire fleets. Captain Ryan Blake led the assault on the alien command ship. His fighter, now crackling with Phoenix energy, moved with speed and precision that seemed impossible. The quantum field had not just enhanced human weapons, it had enhanced human reflexes and thinking as well. Eagle Squadron, target the command ship's weapon systems, Blake ordered through his radio. We want them alive, but helpless. Lieutenant Amy Ross dove her fighter toward one of the flagship's massive gun turrets. Her quantum torpedo struck with pinpoint accuracy, disabling the weapon without destroying the surrounding hull. Around the ship, other human pilots performed similar surgical strikes. Inside the Zephyrian flagship, alien crew members ran through corridors filled with smoke and sparking electronics. The humans were not trying to destroy the ship completely, but they were systematically removing its ability to fight back. Colonel Amy Ross led a boarding party through the breach her Marines had cut in the flagship's hull. The corridors inside were huge, built for creatures much larger than humans. But size meant nothing when human weapons could cut through anything. Spread out and secure the command sections, Ross ordered her Marines. Remember, we want prisoners, not bodies. These lizards have information we need. The human soldiers moved through the alien ship like they owned it. The Zephyrian crew, armed with weapons that had conquered thousands of worlds, found themselves outgunned by humans carrying rifles that could punch through their heaviest armor. Sergeant Danny Cruz kicked down the door to an alien barracks where dozens of Zephyrian soldiers had taken cover. "Drop your weapons," he shouted in the alien language that human computers had learned to translate. The aliens looked at the small human soldier with confusion. Cruz stood barely 5 feet tall while the smallest Zephyrian was over 7 feet, but when one of the aliens raised his energy rifle, Cruz fired a single shot that melted the weapon and left a smoking hole in the wall behind it. The remaining aliens dropped their weapons immediately. Dr. Alex Turner worked frantically in his laboratory as reports came in from across the galaxy. The Phoenix technology had spread to over 200 worlds in just 6 hours. Everywhere the quantum field reached, enslaved species were fighting back against their Zephyrian masters. "Doctor, we're getting reports from the Andromedan survivors," Kate Phillips announced. "They said the Empire told everyone their species was extinct, but thousands of them have been hiding in the outer rim. The Phoenix field reached them and now they're attacking Zephyrian supply bases." Turner smiled grimly. The Empire had built their power on lies and fear. Now that their victims could fight back, those lies were falling apart. On her flagship bridge, Admiral Vexithera found herself surrounded by human Marines. Colonel Ross stepped forward, her weapon trained on the alien commander. "Admiral Vexithera, I am Colonel Ross of the Earth Defense Forces. You are now a prisoner of war." The alien admiral looked down at the small human woman with a mixture of rage and confusion. "You dare to take a Zephyrian admiral prisoner? Do you have any idea what you have done?" "I know exactly what we've done," Ross replied calmly. "We've shown the galaxy that your empire is not invincible. Word is already spreading to every world you've conquered. The revolution has begun." President Lisa Carter's face appeared on every screen throughout the alien fleet. The quantum field allowed instant communication across any distance, and she intended to use it. "This is President Carter of Earth speaking to all Zephyrian forces in this system. Your admiral has been captured. Your fleet is defeated. Your empire is falling apart as we speak." On dozens of alien ships, crew members stared at the screens in shock. Many had never heard an enemy leader speak directly to them before. "I offer you a choice," Carter continued. "You can continue to fight for an empire that treats you as expendable soldiers, or you can help us build something better. A galaxy where species cooperate instead of conquering each other." Lieutenant Amy Ross, monitoring communications from her fighter, heard something she had not expected. Alien voices responding to the president's message. Not with defiance, but with questions. "What do you mean by cooperation?" asked a Zephyrian captain whose ship had lost most of its weapons. "I mean working together as equals," Carter replied. "Your species has knowledge and technology that could benefit everyone. Our species has ideas about freedom and cooperation that could benefit everyone. Together we could build a galaxy where no one has to be a slave." The concept was so foreign to Zephyrian thinking that many of the alien officers needed time to process it. They had been taught that strength meant domination, that the strong ruled the weak by right of conquest. The idea that different species could work together as partners was revolutionary. Admiral Vexthara, now in human custody, watched the conversations with growing amazement. Her own crews were discussing the possibility of cooperation with their former enemies. Some were even asking how they could help free the worlds their empire had conquered. "This is impossible," she said to Colonel Ross. "You are asking my people to abandon everything they believe." "No," Ross replied. "We're asking them to choose what they believe. For the first time in their lives, they have that choice." Throughout the solar system, Zephyrian ships began powering down their weapons, not in surrender, but in acceptance of something new. The age of the Empire was ending, and the age of cooperation was beginning. 6 months after the siege of Earth ended, Admiral Vexthara stood in the rebuilt gardens of New Geneva, watching human children play with young aliens from a dozen different species. The sight would have been impossible to imagine during her days as an Imperial commander, but now it filled her with something she had never felt before. Hope. "Hard to believe how much has changed," said Admiral Steve Parker as he joined her on the garden path. The human officer wore the new uniform of the Galactic Liberation Council, with patches representing over 300 freed worlds. Vexthara nodded slowly. "When I first came to this system, I expected to add another conquered world to the Empire's collection. Instead, I witnessed the birth of something I never thought possible." The former Zephyrian admiral now served as Director of Imperial Rehabilitation, helping former enemy soldiers adapt to life in a free galaxy. It was work she found more rewarding than any military victory she had ever achieved. President Lisa Carter walked through the corridors of the new Galactic Assembly building, reviewing the agenda for today's historic session. Representatives from over 400 worlds would gather to sign the Universal Charter of Freedom, a document that would formally establish the principles of cooperation and mutual respect across the galaxy. The assembly hall was a marvel of combined technology. Human engineering had been enhanced with Zephyrian knowledge, Andromedan science, and innovations from dozens of other species. The result was a building that could house thousands of delegates while providing instant translation between hundreds of languages. Dr. Alex Turner made final adjustments to the Phoenix transmitter that would broadcast the charter signing to every world in the galaxy. The quantum field network had grown beyond anything he had originally imagined. Phoenix stations now operated on over 1,000 worlds, providing clean energy and instant communication across distances that had once taken months to travel. "Doctor, we're receiving confirmation signals from all active Phoenix stations," Kate Phillips reported from her monitoring station. "The network is stable and ready for the broadcast." Turner smiled as he watched the energy readings. The technology that had been born from humanity's desperate need to survive had become the foundation for a new kind of civilization. Instead of conquest and domination, the galaxy now ran on cooperation and shared knowledge. Captain Ryan Blake walked through the hangar bay of the Starship Unity, checking on the mixed crews that now served together. Human, Zephyrian, Andromedan, and dozens of other species worked side by side, maintaining ships that protected trade routes and responded to emergencies across the galaxy. "Captain, we have a distress call from the Vega system," Lieutenant Amy Ross reported. She now served as Blake's first officer on missions that helped newly freed worlds establish their own defenses. "What's the situation?" Blake asked as they headed for the bridge. "Former Imperial forces are trying to retake the system. The local population is requesting assistance." Blake nodded. Even 6 months after the Empire's collapse, some die-hard Imperial commanders still refused to accept the new reality, but they were few in number, and the combined fleets of the Liberation Council usually made short work of them. The Unity and its escort ships jumped to hyperspace, heading for another rescue mission. It was the kind of work Blake had dreamed of when he first became a pilot. Instead of fighting for territory or resources, they were fighting for freedom itself. Colonel Amy Ross stood before a class of young officers from 20 different species, teaching them the principles of defensive warfare that had saved Earth during the siege. The Underground Combat Academy had become one of the most respected military schools in the galaxy. Remember, she told her students, the goal is never conquest. The goal is protection. Every tunnel you dig, every bunker you build, every defensive position you create should be designed to protect civilians, not to attack enemies. One of her students, a young Zephyrian who had never known life outside the Empire, raised his hand. Colonel, what if diplomatic solutions fail? What if we must fight? Then you fight like humans, Ross replied with a grin. You fight dirty, you fight smart, and you never give up. But you always remember that the purpose of fighting is to create peace, not to create more war. In the assembly hall, President Carter stepped up to the podium as delegates from across the galaxy took their seats. Admiral Vexithara sat in the section reserved for former Imperial officers who had chosen cooperation over continued resistance. 6 months ago, Carter began, the Zephyrian Empire demanded that Earth submit to their rule. They expected us to surrender our freedom in exchange for our lives. They believed that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak, that conquest was the natural order of things. The hall was completely silent as Carter's words were transmitted to every world in the galaxy. They were wrong. Might does not make right. Strength comes not from the ability to conquer others, but from the willingness to defend what is just. The strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. And the natural order of things is not conquest, but cooperation. Carter gestured to the assembled delegates. Look around this hall. Humans sit beside Zephyrians. Andromedans work with species that were once their enemies. Former slaves now serve as equals alongside their former masters. This is what happens when we choose cooperation over conquest. The president held up the Universal Charter, a document written in hundreds of languages and representing the combined wisdom of countless worlds. Today we sign more than a treaty. We sign a promise to future generations that the age of empires is over. The age of cooperation has begun. Never again will one species be forced to bow before another. Never again will worlds burn because they dared to seek freedom. Never again will the galaxy echo with the sounds of conquest. As delegates from across the galaxy signed the charter, the Phoenix Network carried their commitment to every world. The Empire had demanded submission, but Earth had answered with something far more powerful than weapons or threats. Earth had answered with hope. And hope, once kindled, could light up the entire galaxy.